Hello everyone, this is Ananya. I'm BS student at IIT Madras. Today we are going to start our English 2 preparation and I'll try to make everything as simple as possible. And today we are going to start week 1. We are going to learn about figures of speech, rhythm, pitch, intonation and discourse markers in this week. And this lecture we are going to solely focus on figures of speech. So yeah, let's start. What are figures of speech? Figures of speech are literary devices whose function is to present an idea without directly referring to it. So, what are these literary devices? So, literary devices or words are used to create a special effect in a piece of writing, such as a poem, novel, or speech. So, these literary devices are words, they might be phrases or even paragraphs too. They are generally used to convey a deeper message, deeper meaning to the readers and to engage readers to draw their attention. So, figures of speech are also such literary devices whose function is to present an idea without directly referring to it. What do you mean by without directly referring to it? So, in simple words, these words or phrases are meaningful but not literally true. So, you'll get to know the exact meaning of this when you see the examples. So, yeah, they have a specialized meaning. You should not take them in the literal sense. They have a meaning, but not in the literal sense. They have a specialized meaning in that context. You'll get to know that in a few minutes. So, these figures of speeches are found in both written and spoken languages. Usage of these shows a command and control over the language. So, when you use figures of speech in your conversation, they make them sound you like a native speakers. And these are divided into 4 main categories. This is actually not mentioned in our IIT Madras lectures, but I'm sharing it with you as an extra piece of information. So they are divided into 4 main categories based on comparison, contrast, association, and construction. Simile, metaphor, personification comes under comparison. Antithesis comes under contrast. Synecdoche and metonymy comes under association. And coming to construction, we would not have any figure of speech that is based on construction in our syllabus as of now, but climax and all comes under construction. So yeah, let's move forward. And the first one being simile. So simile. A simile directly compares two things through connectives such as like, as, than, or verbs like resembles, simulate, etc. They compare two completely unassociated things or ideas. So, what is a simile? It's basically a comparison and it compares to completely unrelated things, two things which are not even related to each other. And they use connectives. So, it's important to note this down, connectives and comparison. So, let's see the examples. The child is as sweet as honey. So, child and honey, they are completely two unrelated things. Her eyes twinkle like stars. Eyes, human eyes, and stars. Harsh is as busy as a bee. The sky looked like a spotless blue sheet of muslin cloth. So here there's a comparison between two completely unrelated things, and they have used connectives such as, like. So yeah, they're comparing two unrelated things. The child is as sweet as honey. So, as I said before, you should not take the literal sense. Here, it does not mean child is honey. We are just comparing them. And sometimes similes are used without comparative words. So, we might think in every sentence containing simile has connectives. If you think so, it's not the case. So, if you see the examples here, he becomes a lion when he is angry. So, there is no connective here, but we are comparing a person with a lion. So we can easily identify it, but I'm just telling you that it's not necessary to have connectives, but maximum of the cases have connectives in them. That's what makes simile unique with the other things. And more examples: cheeks like the blushing cloud, bold as a hawk, eyes as bright as blazing star, as steady as a clock. So these are some more examples of simile. Hope you have understood what a simile is. It's a comparison between two unrelated things and it uses connectives. So the second one is metaphor. A metaphor is a type of comparison in which a word or phrase is used in place of other to suggest a likeliness between them. So it compares two unrelated things, typically by stating that one thing is another. When we use a word or phrase as a metaphor, it does not carry its literal meaning. Obviously, we should not take the meaning in the literal sense for any figure of speech. So metaphor also compares two unrelated things, same like simile, but the difference is metaphor states that something is other. It says this is that. So let's see an example. Work today was a nightmare. That athlete is a machine. That test was murder. Silence is golden. So here they are not saying, they're literally saying athlete is a machine. Test is murder. Work is a nightmare. Whereas if you observe in simile, we used connectives such as like and as. In metaphor, we aren't using any connectives. Instead, we are saying that this thing is the other. This is that. So that's the only difference between metaphor and simile. So, and the other example, it's a famous one from literature. All the world's a stage and all the men and women are merely players. So there's saying world is a stage. All men and women are players. They are not using any connectives here. They are just saying world is a stage. Men and women are players. This is that. Hope you got the point. So what's the difference between metaphor and simile? A metaphor makes a comparison by stating that one thing is something else. But simile states that one thing is like something else. So that's the only difference. Connectives are used in simile, and in metaphor there are no connectives at all, and we say that one thing is the another one. So let's go to the next one, which is personification. In personification, a thing or idea is given human attributes and emotions. It gives human traits and qualities such as feelings, desires, sensations, physical gestures, and speech to an inanimate object as if they had life. It helps in establishing a deeper connection with the readers. They are often used in poetry. So, what is personification? It gives human traits, human qualities to inanimate objects. We cannot say non-living things, but because if you see the example here, the daffodils danced in the breeze. Daffodils are flowers. Flowers are not non-living things, but so I have mentioned here inanimate objects. So inanimate objects are given human qualities, and these are used to establish a deeper connection with readers. The daffodils danced in the breeze. Opportunity sometimes knocks at our door. I felt like the foot kept calling me. So the foot doesn't call us. Foot cannot speak. Opportunity does not knock at our door. Daffodils really do not dance. The leaves rustle in the wind, gossiping with each other. Leaves do not gossip. Gossiping, calling, knocking the door, dancing, all these are human traits, human qualities. These are things that humans do. But they are being given, they are being attributed to inanimate things like flowers, leaves. And see here, the old car grumbled and protested as it started. The raindrops danced on the window pane. The fear whispered in the shadows, sending shivers down my spine. The storm clouds angrily gathered overhead. The words on the page whispered a captivating story. Obviously, words do not whisper to you. It's just that, it's just to draw the attention of the reader to make something more interesting and engaging. They use such things. Personification is giving human qualities to something which is inanimate. Hope it's clear. And the next thing being paradox. A paradox is a situation or statement that is true but sounds impossible or conflicting. So, It consists of a statement or an idea that seems illogical until analyzed more deeply. It uses contradictory statements to make a point. In simple words, it's a self-contradictory statement or argument. So they seem illogical when you hear them, but they do make a point. They are used as thought-provoking elements in writing, especially in literature. So they are used to make you think of something specific. Okay? And coming to the examples, this is the beginning of the end. War is peace. Do not go into the water until you have learned to swim. Less is more. Men work together whether they work together or apart. All I know is that I know nothing. So all these are literally very weird when you hear it for the first time. But when you go deeper into the meaning, they have some kind of truth behind them. So this is what makes it a paradox. So let's see. All I know is that I know nothing. This is a famous statement. So here, if you observe, all I know and I know nothing. These are completely two different things. It is so weird to when you listen it for the first time. But if you see the meaning behind it, no matter how much you learn, there is a lot more to it. There is a lot more things. There are a lot more things out there to know about, to learn. So that's the meaning here. No matter how much you learn about something, there is so much more to learn. So that's the meaning here. And war is peace. This is the beginning of the end. All these are very weird and absurd when you hear it for the first time, but they do have they do make a point when you go deeper into the meaning. So do not go into the water until you have learned to swim. So when you hear it for the first time, you will think, how do you learn to swim without going into the water? They do make a sense. You literally cannot go to swim in an ocean or a river without learning to swim. So there is a meaning behind everything here. So simply, if you feel it is illogical and if you feel it's weird when you read it for the first time, then it's definitely paradox. You'll get to know the difference between these later on in the lecture. So oxymoron, it contains two words with opposite meanings. It combines contradictory terms, and those terms like they are of adjective noun combination, as you can see here. Dim light, low height, they are of maximum of them are of adjective noun combination. So even these are illogical, like they seem illogical at first. So let's see the examples. I distinctly remember forgetting that parting is such sweet sorrow. It was always a love-hate relationship. True fiction, organized mess, painfully beautiful, seriously funny, friendly fight, Walking Dead. So all of these are two words with opposite meanings, as you can see. So true fiction. Fiction is itself something which is not true, and it's mentioned here as true fiction. They seem illogical at first, but they do make sense. Like truly fictionate, like it's completely fiction. That's the meaning here. And organized mess, painfully beautiful. The process of giving birth is painfully beautiful. Though we have to go through the pain, it is also beautiful as they get to meet their child. So remember, forgetting, sweet sorrow, love, hate, all of these are adjacent to each other and they are completely opposite. So such things are called as oxymoron. And so what is the difference between oxymoron and paradox? Because both of them look similar. So let's see the difference. Oxymorons use contradictory words, but paradoxes use contradictory ideas. Usually, oxymorons are made up of just two words, but paradoxes are complete sentences, sometimes entire paragraphs. So I've clearly mentioned here the difference between these. Like there's this very slight difference. It's a very thin line between them, but they are not equal. They're just similar. So oxymoron uses contradictory words. There is a difference between word and idea. And oxymorons are just two words, two opposite words. As you can see here, sweet sorrow, love, hate, walking dead, they are adjacent to each other and they are just two words. Whereas paradoxes are complete sentences, sometimes entire paragraphs too. You get to see these in the literature. You can see here the complete sentences. This is the beginning of the end. All I know is that I know nothing. I must be cruel only to be kind. These are entire sentences. So that is the difference. Words, oxymorons are contradictory words. Paradoxes use contradictory ideas. Oxymorons are just two words, whereas paradoxes are complete sentences. So this is the difference. So the next thing is antithesis. In antithesis, two opposites are introduced in the same sentence for contrasting effects. For example, hell and heaven, high and low, deep and shallow, etc. The components in opposition follow a parallel structure. That is, they have the same grammatical structure. The opposing clauses, phrases, or sentences are roughly equal in length and balanced in contiguous grammatical structures. Contiguous means adjacent. Synonym of contiguous is adjacent. So the parallel structure makes for rhythmic writing and speech. So here it's the two opposites are introduced in the same sentence. Like see, oxymoron, antithesis, paradox are all they all include contrasting effects. I'll tell you they have a very thin line between them. I'll tell you the difference clearly later on. First, let's focus upon only this. And they have the same grammatical structure too. This is the thing you'll have to remember. So let's see the examples. No pain, no gain. United we stand, divided we fall. Patience is bitter, but it has sweet fruit. Speech is silver, silence is gold. No guts, no glory. To err is human, to forgive divine. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So they are completely contrasting ideas and they have similar grammatical structure, same grammatical structure. So let's see what's the difference between these three. Then you'll get to know what exactly it is. What is the difference between antithesis and oxymoron? So an oxymoron is a phrase that uses two contradictory or opposing terms next to each other. While an antithesis is a device that presents two contrasting ideas in a sentence but not in the same phrase. So if you see this example, it will be completely clear to you. Do you know what is the tragedy in this play? This play is a comedy. So tragedy and comedy, they're completely contrasting words. And this is antithesis. So how did you know this is antithesis? Because these both are contrasting ideas, but they are not in the same phrase. They are in a sentence. And coming to this second one, I love reading tragic comedies. They are next to each other. Oxymoron is a phrase that uses two contradictory or opposing terms next to each other. This is the main thing to remember about oxymoron. If two opposite terms are next to each other, then it's an oxymoron. And in antithesis, they'll be in a sentence. The opposite terms will not be in the same phrase. So that is the difference. Let's see the difference between these three: paradox, oxymoron, and antithesis. They have a very thin line between them, but they are. It's not that difficult to differentiate. As you see, a paradox is a statement or situation that appears absurd but reveals a hidden truth upon closer examination. Like they appear when you listen for the first time, you feel weird or absurd, but they have a hidden truth if you go into the deeper meaning. For example, war is peace. And I have given you many examples before. And coming to oxymoron, oxymoron is two adjacent words opposite to each other. For example, seriously, funny, love, hate. If two opposite words are adjacent to each other, then it is oxymoron. It's easiest to identify. And coming to antithesis, it is an idea or clause opposite to another idea or clause in a sensible or logical manner. These opposite ideas need not be adjacent to each other. For example, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Best and worst, they are opposite, but they are not adjacent to each other, and the whole sentence is sensible or logical. They do not seem weird when you hear for the first time, like paradox. When you hear them, they are sensible and you don't feel any weirdness when you hear them, and the opposite words are not adjacent to each other. So that's the difference between antithesis and oxymoron. And coming to paradox, there's a hidden truth behind them, and they feel weird when you listen for the first time. So this is the difference between these three. And still, if you have any doubts, please let us know in the comment section so that we can resolve them. And the next thing is alliteration. It is a literary device in which the first sound of two adjacent words is repeated. It's very easy to identify, guys, and it is commonly found in poems and also in a speech in the form of alliterative phrases. They are also used as company names to create a catchy, memorable phrase. So when sound of the two adjacent words is repeated, automatically it creates a rhythm which becomes a catchy phrase. So if you see the example, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. So the same sound has been repeated over and over in the whole sentence here actually. It's just two adjacent words actually, but in this case, it's repeated in the whole sentence. The furrow flowed free. Kit Kat, Leapin' Lizards, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. So if you see, the same sound is repeated. So if the same sound is repeated in adjacent words, then it is alliteration. It's very easy to identify. So yeah, now let's go through the activity questions. First thing, the cave was like a battleship stripped for action. They're asking to find out the figure of speech. Is it simile, metaphor, synecdoche, or paradox? So if you go through the sentence once again, the cave was like a battleship stripped for action. So it's very easy to identify. Connective is used here, so obviously it's simile. And the second one, do not go gentle into that good night. They're asking which figure of speech is this? A simile, a metaphor, or no figure of speech? So, if you see here, it isn't a simile. It's actually a metaphor. So, how is it a metaphor? So, this is a line from literature, from a poem actually. This poem is all about death. That death is inevitable. Every one of us know that. The poet wants to tell that everyone will die some or the other day, but that doesn't mean we'll give up on it so easily. So that's what he's saying here. Do not go gentle into that good night. So what is metaphor? It's using a word or phrase in place of another one. As I already told you, it's just saying this is that. So here he used good night as a metaphor for death. So he used good night in the place of death. So here, that's the thing here. He's saying, do not give up on death so easily. Though it's inevitable, do not give up. So that's how it's metaphor. Hope you have understood. And so the third question, if you see, there's a connective here, and they are saying that it is a metaphor. So obviously there will be no connectives in metaphor. So it isn't a metaphor. It is instead a simile. So it is false. And the fourth one, conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run. So they're asking the figure of speech here. It is actually a line from a poem called To Autumn. So basically, it's a poem in which The author personified the autumn season. He gave human attributes to autumn. So, what actually he's saying in this sentence is he's saying that the autumn is conspiring the sun to give fruits to the vines. Vines are actually grapes, they're kind of plants. So, that's the thing. It's personification. He's giving human attributes to autumn season. The poem is all about describing autumn season, autumn's beauty by personifying it. So the answer is personification. So the next one, fifth question. Life is much too important to be taken seriously. They're asking the figure of speech. So if you read it once again, it's a contradictory statement. It seems contradictory in the first because important things are meant to be taken seriously. But the poet here, Oscar Wilde, he is giving us a paradoxical suggestion that more important something is, the more important it is to not take it seriously. So let me explain it in simple words. He's simply suggesting us not to take anything seriously and to find joy in smallest things possible. He's asking us to work on our passion. So it's a paradoxical statement. It seems contradictory in first, but if you go deep into it, there's actually a meaning. There's a point. So it's a paradox. So if you have any doubts, please let us know in the comments. We'll continue the remaining figures of speech in the next part of the video. Hope it is clear till now. Thank you everyone.